Today we're going to talk about the why of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is best understood if you compare it to the existing monetary system in which we exist. So for me and for us in the United States, and arguably a majority of the population on Earth, the dollar is what we can compare to. So the reason I want to make this video is I come across sometimes people that are into cryptocurrencies, and that's good, nothing against them. And they say, well, I don't like how fast or Bitcoin doesn't move fast enough as compared to some of the others. And after talking to them, I realized they don't understand the why of Bitcoin. How it sets itself apart from the rest of the digital currencies out there. So I like to have Bitcoin, even though even I talk about cryptocurrencies in general, and I'll throw Bitcoin in that hat. I think in reality, and given enough time, Bitcoin will separate itself as Bitcoin, the Bitcoin category, and it'll be off by itself on its own. And hopefully you'll understand that today after I get done explaining this. And then the other category would be all the other cryptocurrencies. And I guess they would all be under the heading of digital currencies. So let's dive into this. Bitcoin is defined as a digital currency. So a decentralized, I should say that, a decentralized digital currency that no central authority has any control of. And when I first heard the term decentralized or central, like a central bank, those were actually the first times I had actually kind of heard those terms. We don't really use the term central bank in the United States. One would argue we don't have one, but we do. We don't have one by name. And the, centrally controlled, what does that mean? So let's dive into that a bit. So a central bank is a bank that controls the issuance of money, the inflation rate of money. And you can watch my previous video on inflation, what that is, how it works. I'll link it in the description below. But a central bank controls the inflation of money. They control the interest rates at which money is borrowed, which is a tremendous privilege. One that I have said no human should ever have. Our fallibility of humans, it always tends toward printing too much money, which one would argue any amount of money is too much money to print. And the interest rates, why not let the market decide it? There's no way a central authority could really determine what the market rate would be of an interest rate, even though they certainly do try. So decentralized. So we've kind of covered that, a central authority controls the issuance of money. For us in the United States, it's the Federal Reserve, and there's nothing federal about it, and there are no reserves. So let's just get that cleared up. It's a name that was specifically, if you read in certain books, The Secrets of the Federal Reserve is where I learned this, where that's the name of the book, where there are no federal. They came up with the name because it specifically wasn't central bank. The central bank of the United States, it had a bad connotation, central banking had a bad name to it, so to speak, back in 1913 when they were voting on this, and up to that point. So the Americans didn't like central banks as a whole, and we had two of them before that, and they phased out. And England has, the Central Bank of England, I think, if I make sure I got that name right, but, they had one. So there was some influence there, and people kind of saw the results. So they had to name it something else to sneak it into Congress. And the Federal Reserve Act was snuck into Congress at the last minute on December 23rd, 1913. And from there, we're living the results of that well over 100 years since the Federal Reserve Act was enacted. So that is our central authority. They control it. It is centralized. They have influence over the money. What a tremendous privilege to do that. Because you can steal all the hard work and effort of basically any human being that uses the dollar on Earth. That is, which is paramount to slavery, in my opinion. Being able to do that. It's just a modern version of cracking the whip. So, and then digital currency. You know, when I heard that first, and if you're maybe older or not into tech, you know, it was like, all right, what's a digital currency? I understand currency, it's money, you can trade it back and forth, go to another country, it's another currency, and it's, what is it, you know? So digital, let's just break it down. Digital, so we got currency covered, I think, but digital, what is digital? Well, digital is zeros and ones, it's computer code, and I just think internet. If it's digital, it's on the internet, and it travels at the speed of light, and anybody can take advantage of it. You know, if it's on the internet, you can see it and use it. So that is what we have today. We have, you know, so Bitcoin is a decentralized digital currency. In other words, it exists on the internet. So yeah, if the internet goes away, we're gonna have a very hard time spending Bitcoin, unless some other tech comes up that I don't understand. So maybe in the future, but you know, that's another conversation for another day. So yes, Bitcoin exists on the internet and it's decentralized. And there's no single one authority that controls Bitcoin. There has to be consensus across those who participate in Bitcoin, to just put it simply. And there's more and more people participating in Bitcoin, so which would strengthen the existing rules in Bitcoin. So, and long story short, Bitcoin is just a computer program, and it's a computer program written by one or more individuals. He or she, they gave themselves the name, or he gave or she gave themselves the name Satoshi Nakamoto, and that's who kind of started Bitcoin, invented it, worked off a lot of the work of a lot of other very intelligent individuals, and it's just a computer program, and it's an open source computer program, meaning anybody can go look at that computer program. I myself, you know, I do have a degree in mechanical engineering. I've kind of strayed away from my degree, so I'm pretty rusty. I have seen some computer programs. I have written a couple of my own. Maybe if I looked into it enough, I you know, studied it enough, I would understand the computer program for Bitcoin. But I'm just going to trust everybody, you know, the thousands of hours that I've listened to podcasts and the books I've read. I'm just going to trust that as a group they would have, you know, what a big farce if it's not true, you know. So the program it's from my understanding, is very simple. You know, there's an emission schedule, which is Bitcoin mining. So Bitcoin does have an inflation rate, you know, and we talk about how inflation is bad, but Bitcoin's inflation rate gets changed every 4 years roughly. And we'll make another video on how Bitcoin mining works, but that's where we get inflation rate. The Bitcoin miners get a reward of Bitcoin, of freshly brand new Bitcoin that is created. And their reward right now on, what are we at? And we're in March of 2022. The reward is, I believe, 6.25 Bitcoin. For the block reward for the Bitcoin miners every roughly 4 years. It's after so many blocks. Like I said, we'll get into that later, how all that mining works, but that'll get cut in half, and that's part of the computer program. It will get cut in half, so it'll be 1 something Bitcoin, you know, reward that the miners will get down the road. So that's called a halving, and that happens roughly every 4 years. And so Bitcoin does have an inflation rate. But guess what? You know what it is. I know what it is. Everybody knows what it is. It's in the computer program. It can't change. Isn't that wonderful? Compare that to our modern, I don't even want to say modern because it really is really old, to our Federal Reserve, our central bank, who's a bunch of dudes sitting in a room in secret. And we don't know what they're going to change interest rates to. We don't know if they're going to print more money. We don't know when and for how much and for how long. And then you got all of the cascading consequences of that you cannot escape, you know, from printing money. And that's another, you know, what are the consequences of money printing? I'll leave that to Saifedean Ammous in the Fiat Standard in his book there, because that would be, you know, he really dives deep into that. It's depressing, but a must read. How's that? You know, it's you know, it's a reality. it's a eye-opener. You know, even after reading the Bitcoin Standard, I thought I kind of had a handle on it, and I'm not even finished reading the Fiat Standard, and my eyes are like, wow, I'm just popping at all the side effects and the consequences of printing money. Anyway, we don't know what rate they're going to print the money. We don't know when they're going to change interest rates. We don't know what they're going to change them to, and why. You know, and these are humans. They can be influenced. They can change on a dime. To think they have your best interest at heart, what a joke. They don't have your best interest at heart. They don't know who you are. They don't care about you. The only thing they care about is your hard work and effort that they can steal via inflation. So, and even if they had the best of intentions, this day and age, 100 years later, none of us were alive in 1913. So everyone was born into this system now. So we're even if everyone has the best of intentions, we now have this beast to contend with, so a huge comparison there to what Bitcoin is compared to the existing system. So we can either all vote on this computer program that is immutable, cannot change, and we can hop on that. And how do you hop on that? You can mine Bitcoin. You can run a full node, all videos I can do later, and you can buy Bitcoin, which I would suggest first thing, buy Bitcoin. Don't own 0 Bitcoin. Own some Bitcoin. Buy some. $5, $100, go buy some right now. Stop this video, pause it, get off of 0 Bitcoin. Okay, so Bitcoin is a computer program. It's a computer program that everybody can see. Therefore, you vote on it, and you can vote with your money, which is arguably the most effective way to vote. When you vote on it with your money, you show what you care about most. And if you vote on it with your money, you buy Bitcoin, you're buying into that system. Therefore, you're buying into that computer program that has already been written. That you're okay with that inflation rate that the Bitcoin's at. You're okay with the hard cap, which is 21 million Bitcoin. Let's go into that for a little bit. That's part of the computer program. The last Bitcoin will be mined. The last I looked was in the year 2134. So well after my lifetime, we're roughly 100 years from now, the last Bitcoin will be mined, and that will be boom, the 21 millionth Bitcoin, and then it's done. And then miners can only make money from transaction fees after that, which they do make money from as well now. The transaction fees. So holy cow. There's a hard cap to it. Is there a hard cap to the amount of dollars that can be created? No, which is obvious. I've done some rough math, looked at some other things online. I think if you took the thickness of a $1 bill and you stacked that up, I can't remember what it was, but I think you could go to the moon, or excuse me, the sun, I think 2.5 times. We're $30 trillion in debt, so 30 trillion, take the thickness of those $1 bills, you could go to the sun and back. We have no clue how that, it's out of reality for us. There's no sense of reality of what the dollar is, which is another indicator that's going to fail, because they don't know the price of anything anymore, what things are going to. So we're going to call this just the part one, I'll make a part 2 video as well right after this. But so Bitcoin, to recap, Bitcoin is a decentralized digital currency. It's money that exists on the internet and is controlled not by humans, but by a computer program. To buy into this computer program, you are voting with your money to use it, and that you're okay with the attributes that the computer program has. Those attributes would be the emission schedule, aka the inflation rate of Bitcoin. And you're okay with, and underneath that would be the halving cycles. In other words, the inflation rate is being decreased every 4 years by half. And then you're okay with the hard cap of Bitcoin of 21 million. And maybe even more importantly, you're okay with this money, this currency we call Bitcoin, existing on the internet so that it can be moved at the speed of light to anywhere in the world. And maybe anywhere in the galaxy. Like and subscribe, ask questions, leave comments, try to make these videos just so the random person off the street can get it, so you can orange peel your parents or any family member that's just getting into Bitcoin. Thank you.